Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC. Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC. Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Capital Advisory Group, Inc. is not affiliated with Kestra IS or Kestra AS. Neither Kestra IS nor Kestra AS provide legal or tax advice and are not certified public accounting firms.
You work hard for your money. For the next hour, you're going to learn how to keep what's yours. Capital Advisory Group presents Keep What's Yours. Here are Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Hello and welcome to Keep What's Yours. I'm Josh Gilbert, sitting here with Jeff Zufall. He is the Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group. He is the author of the book, Keep What's Yours, How to Leverage the New Tax Law to Create Unfair Advantage Over Your Competition. That's Jeff Zufall. Thank you so much for joining us again this week.
Thank you.
And I got to ask you, with all the things on the horizon, you know, you've said multiple times on this show, on these airwaves, that whoever wins the election gets to reset the tax law. So what Trump did, all the Republicans rallied around and got Trump elected in 2016, and they promptly got to work on a tax break.
Yes.
And those are the Trump tax cuts.
Trump's tax cuts.
I don't know what officially they call them. You know, Obamacare has a real name.
Exactly. Well, Trump's has a couple different tax cuts that are in there, but they sunset in 2025. So the issue, and I won't say issue.
The election is November of 24. So, and then a month and a half later,
they sunset. They revert back to 2019 tax law.
Okay.
So what'll take place is whoever wins that election, whether that was done by political design, it's not a choice to go in there and mess with the tax law. It's by they have to. They don't have any choice. They have to. Otherwise, we revert back to 2019 tax laws, and nobody's going to like them.
Right.
So whoever wins the election literally will get that'd be one of their first topics they don't take possession of the office until January, but they're going to have to go to work quick.
And when we say whoever wins the election, are we talking the White House? Are we talking the House? Are we talking the Senate?
White House typically,
really?
As long as they could get their bills pushed through through the Senate and House and all that fun stuff. So literally that's the kicker. Whoever wins gets to reset it, and it's not by choice. It's by action that they have to, just because they don't want those tax laws to revert back to old tax laws.
Yeah. Well, that is, that's frightening.
Very.
As if we didn't have enough to worry about.
And again, not to be naive, whether it's Republican or Democrat, they're going to have to raise taxes. I mean, they're going to have to. With the debt that we sit with today, we had a wild debt running up to 20 when COVID hit. Republicans spent some money, Democrats spent some money, and we added, I think, combined $7-point-something trillion to the debt. And you go, is that sustainable? And I mean, mathematically, no, it's not. So it's not that the U.S. is going to say, oh, we default one day. It's just they raise taxes to offset expenses.
Yeah.
Easiest way to explain it.
So that's a coming.
It's a coming.
So be prepared for that. And
yes.
How do I be prepared for tax increases? Well, you talk to someone about
exactly. There'll be a whole revamp, probably spring of 25. And the bad part about that is you start to put something together to plan one direction, not knowing where they're going to go, and then in spring of 25 they say, here's our new tax laws.
Yeah.
So you may have to zig and zag in 25.
So what should I do until then?
Continue doing exactly what you're doing.
Just stay the course.
Stay the course, because everything's the same for 23 and 24, other than some adjustments, like increases and contributions to retirement plans and so on. But nothing really, I say, changes until 25, and that's when the big one will hit.
And that's the image I have in my mind is everyone is out on New Year's Eve celebrating with their hats and the glasses that say 2025 on them. And Jeff is in his office, in a
unfortunately, I wish that would
shirt
be the
and
case.
tie with a pen ready to go for 2025 to hit, and boom, off to the races.
Yes.
But it's probably, will these tax plans be announced ahead of time?
No.
Will they tell us what they want to do and we can vote
Maybe
accordingly?
in the elections they'll say, "Oh, we're going to do this," or we're going to buy you a new car, stuff like that. But they may hint at it. But when I say rubber meets the road, they probably will not say a word, and it will be, I don't want to say after the fact, but if you don't take possession of the office until January 11th or something like that, or 10th.
Oh yeah. Inauguration day is not even until like the 20th
or 20th. Yeah. So you're not even in office till the middle to the end of January.
And for me, as an individual taxpayer, April 15th comes around, and I just pay my taxes according to the previous year's tax law.
Exactly.
So it really wouldn't affect us until...
It wouldn't, other than if you're planning for something. In 25, it may change mid-year by the time that they put it out. One of the worst jobs, honestly, is to be a computer programmer for tax software, trying to figure out, hey, here's the law. How do we apply this to a piece of software that makes it work right?
Yeah.
So I would not want that job.
We need a drop-down bubble.
Yes.
For this and
5 more for that, and 2 over here, and
well, that's interesting, and I don't want to say, we don't have to worry about that until April 16th, 2026.
It may be huge that you have huge issues that you need to get ahead of in 2025.
And even if they don't take effect until halfway through the year, this is what we always say on the show: keep what's yours. On every week, Jeff Zufall is on with Wendy and Jennifer all the time. We talk about them in the Heidi Show.
Yes.
Jeff wants you to look at your paycheck stub every time you get paid.
Yeah, seriously.
That's a taxable event.
Every time.
And you can make adjustments. We're even in September. Well, we still have a quarter left.
Exactly.
Of this calendar year. Don't just hang it up and say, most of the year's over.
I'm not going to worry about it. That's the issue, is most people will stick their head in the sand, not worry about it, and just say, I'll do it next year. But the hardest part is getting to the point of picking up the phone to call to say, hey, I need to talk to you. And then, even in that situation, we could do it by a phone call. We could do a Zoom call. Sit down, it just depends upon what floats your boat.
So, it's like, it's already September. What's done is done.
Yeah.
Well, if you make $100,000 a year and we're in the fourth quarter, that's still $25,000.
Exactly.
And if there's a way to save 5% in taxes off of that $25,000, I'm not good at math.
Yep.
But, that's a couple $1,000s.
Exactly.
So don't just hang it up already and say what's done is done.
Yeah. No.
And don't think that, they're not going to come out with their new tax laws until July. Well, you still got half a year of paying those taxes. Yeah. Or what we suppose is to not pay them.
Yeah.
Legally. To keep more of what's yours. Use the tax code to your advantage. And that was a really, really long question. Or lead up to this question, Jeff. Are you going to have to rewrite the book in 2025?
More than likely. I would say that there'll be a Keep What's Yours version 2 sometime in 25.
So once the new tax laws come out, the book I'm holding in my hand, let's hope it doesn't come to this, but, half the pages could be ripped out.
Exactly. It would be outdated for adjustments that they make, and there's all kinds of weird, I say, little one-offs that they could toss into the tax law to squeeze $50 here out of us, or add this or do that or take deductions away. The easy one is the charitable contributions. Today you have to file a Schedule A, itemize your deductions. 95% of America cannot hit that number, and a married filing joint is like $28,000 basically. In 20 and 21, they gave us $300 and $600 and charitable contributions, just non-itemized, just boom, here you go. So that's a perk in a sense that helps us. And it's minimal tax dollars you're saving, but still every dollar counts. So
it really does.
Yeah.
And add it up, you make $100,000 and you're able to find 5% tax savings.
Exactly.
That's $5,000.
Exactly.
That's even math I can do.
Yes.
If you're not doing anything, then you're paying the full amount.
$5,000 too much, yeah.
And you're paying $5,000 more than what you legally have to.
Yes.
How do we find out what's in the tax code? Well, you can either sit down and read it.
Yes.
it's 7 Bibles worth.
Yes, it's
long.
huge. And,
Yeah.
and I'll say 3/4 of it doesn't apply to you. It applies to special circumstances, corporations, partnerships. The individual side is a small sliver of it.
Oh, and let me just get the tax code out here, and I'll go to the index and go to Gilbert and J. Oh, it's on page,
18,000.
18,000. And this pertains to you, Josh Gilbert. No. And, that's not the way that it works. And God love them, they'll never work it that way.
No, never.
And Trump did come up with this idea. I remember he held up the little postcard, and he said,
Yeah.
this is your tax form next year. And everybody applauded.
Yeah.
And it never happened.
It actually got more complex because of the tax cuts and adjustments.
So it's like, I've heard stories that over in Japan, they do your taxes for you.
Yeah.
And they send you a card and they say, you owe this.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, but we've got huge tax companies in this.
Well, the
country.
lobbyist is huge in this industry. I don't think that'll ever go to a flat tax. I don't think it'll ever just go to, hey, the government's going to do it for you. Then I say this, the rumblings are a couple of, I'll say, the online computer companies that do tax returns got sued, aggressively sued by the U.S. government because they buried their free sections of the software on a website that you could never find, even though they said free, 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 free. Didn't exist. You couldn't find it. So now the IRS has created, I think this year will be the first year, their own software. So you could do it online.
Oh, I file my taxes not with TurboTax
Exactly.
or whatever.
But you're going to file it directly with the IRS.
IRS.gov.
They have to have, I don't know what the requirements are, like 50,000 or less. And basically you got to have a W-2 and that's it. If you have anything else, they won't allow it to take place. But what people are saying is you cannot be the judge, jury, and executioner. You can't be the taxing authority, and the taxing authority make the software and enforce the taxes. People are having an issue with this. Whereas if it's a third party creating it, they're going to help you and say, hey, here's stuff that, it'll ask you, hey, would you like to save on your taxes? Well, everybody's going to answer yes.
I mean, where's that bubble for no?
Yeah. So that's what they're saying is, this is the first step of the IRS stepping out there saying, hey, look, we can do all this online, no questions asked. But at the end of the day, the lobbyists are so big that it'll never go through.
I mean, there are companies, they're sole existent, billion-dollar companies, their sole existence
exactly.
is to make the tax code too hard
yes.
for us to do our own taxes.
To understand or realize where all the little pieces of it are.
And I'll be the first person to say, if they made that postcard and they sent me a letter that said, Josh, this is what you owe us in taxes, pay us, Jeff would be, half of his business.
Exactly, would go poof.
Would go poof. But, I think we would both be fine if that happened. But in the meantime, you do need some help. That's why Jeff is here for you in the meantime.
Yes.
But the reality is, it's never going to happen.
It's
in this
not
country.
going to. Not here.
Too much money to be made.
Way too much.
So in the meantime and for now and in perpetuity, Jeff is here to help you do your taxes and find the savings where they can. Keep What's Yours. That's the name of the game, the name of the book. That's going to have to be updated here in a couple of years. And the name of the show that we do every week. If you need help with your taxes, that's what Jeff does. 636-394-5524. He's also the wealth advisor, and full disclosure, he's my wealth advisor. So when's the last time you talked to someone about your taxes? When's the last time you talked to somebody about your retirement and your financials? Who's got that?
Yes.
You just told me a story before we got on that someone was having trouble just logging into their retirement account.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when's the last time you looked at it?
Exactly. That was my first question.
You have it taken out of your paycheck, socked away. Sometimes I'll look at my stock apps on my phone and just say, I wonder how it's doing.
Yeah.
But I never really go into it and
see
say,
historically
where is it?
what did it do the last week, the last 6 months, the last month, year to date.
And do you say? I mean, I've heard some people say, but does Jeff Zufall say, don't look at it?
I mean, you don't want to look at it on a consistent basis. It will drive you nuts because
Right.
one day you make a ton of money, the next day you give it all back. And you're like, wait a minute, there's nothing out there that I see economically or that you hear that would make that a rational maneuver, and the market does not work that way. The market time is on your side. Basically, if you have the time to ride it out, you'll make money over the long term. But in the process, you can't critique it day in, day out. Some people love looking at it. Go, hey, I made $5, I made 5,000, whatever. But the concept is look at quarterly statements because that gives you a 90-day run on the market. And you're just looking to make sure nothing, a stock didn't disappear out of your portfolio, or anything like that took place. So
yeah. So just keep an eye on it every couple of months just to see,
log
make
in,
sure
take a
that
peek.
it's not zero.
Well, zero or all your stock went, to basically to zero.
Right.
But there's tweaks that you make once you set an asset allocation in play. The theory is it's just subtle little tweaks that you make to the portfolio as you go forward.
And let me ask you this, since I got you here, we're going to go into commercial break, and I think later in the show we're going to talk about the property tax freeze in St. Charles County, but I am in some sort of growth fund or something, and when the guy set it up for me here at work at the station, he goes, "This one's pretty good," and I was just like, "Okay, all right, I'll do it."
Okay.
Sounds great. But when I brought my stuff to you, you took a look at it and you said, "Oh, I know this fund. I'm in it as well."
Yeah.
It has gone from, we'll just say 100 down to 50 in the course of, 3 years when I bought him. Should I be worried? Because I heard you say one time, well, if it goes down, that just means that when you buy more of it, you can get more of it.
Exactly.
Now you're buying it cheaper.
So if it's in a 401k or something that you are dollar cost averaging, you're putting money into on a consistent basis, and then that fund still meets your investment criteria on what it's trying to do over the long term, keep doing it.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, that's all part of the game. If it drops, that's an opportunity. It's on sale. A lot of people don't realize that. You see, or maybe you don't, but your wife sees an ad, says, hey, this is on sale. She's going to go buy it. It's on sale. That's the whole point. Same thing with the stocks. Hypothetically, they will go on sale every once in a while. The other thing is growth kind of fell out of favor the last, say, 15 months, 18 months, but it's coming back. So the question is, can it continue its run going forward? No different than anything in the technology or NASDAQ arena. Did horrible in 22. I mean, just you'd think that we went back to the Stone Ages or paper and pencil and nobody was using technology ever again. But boom, 2023, it's racing right back where it came from.
Right.
So the cycles kick in and kick out. And as long as you have an asset allocation, and what I mean by that is you have dollars allocated to that growth fund or a technology fund or, a bond fund, which is really out of favor right now, or something of that growth in income. What it will do is over a period of time, one will make money, the other one will lose money. But long term, they'll all make money.
Yeah. So this is why you don't want to look at it every day.
Yeah, because it drives you nuts.
So, if you want to sit down and reevaluate, and Jeff, I think you recommend we come and see you once a quarter. We become clients. You do our taxes for us. You find out where our money's at. You say, well, this is good or this is bad or maybe you should move this here or you need to be more aggressive there. And then check back in once a quarter.
That's it.
And we do that, and we say, I come in and I'm like, wringing my hands. Oh, Jeff, the thing went down, and I don't know what to do. And you say, well, what are you in it for in the first place? And if you're in it for the long haul,
that's exactly right.
Then just keep at it and stop looking at it every day.
So we have people that, again, you have people that try to buy. These are mutual funds or ETF, something you're going to buy. Not that you're going to stick your head in the sand and just ignore it, but you're going to buy it with a buy and hold attitude going forward. And then over time, you will subtly tweak it, which means there may be times where it's out of favor or you have too much in that one fund. You need to add another fund, give you a little bit more diversity, and that's what we mean by tweaking it.
So take a look at your stuff every once in a while.
Yes.
Talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about because we don't.
Yeah,
I truly don't.
And when most people look at their 401k, when they pick their allocations, they go, hey, they look at past performance, and they pick the top 3 funds that look like it made the most money over the last couple of years. And past performance is not indicative of future performance because the market goes in cycles. So if you may pick those 3 funds and they're the best looking funds in there because of performance, it may be the biggest dogs over the next 5 years just because of what takes place.
Just like my fantasy football. So have someone just kind of look at it every quarter or so. Talk to your guy, talk to your gal, and then just make sure, because if you're making a lot of money, at some point the tax man's a coming.
Showing up to say, hey, give me my fair share. So.
Because everything that we do, there is no such thing as a tax-free lunch.
And let's take money out of your Roth.
Okay, well, there you go. But it was taxed before it went
It was,
in there.
exactly. To get it there, you had to pay the tax on it.
So every time you get paid, taxes come out, whether they are right off the top or they're delayed and you make the agreement with the federal government, I'll pay you later.
Yep.
They're coming. They haven't forgotten about you.
Exactly.
I can move to a cabin in the woods and grow a big beard.
They'll still find you.
They'll knock on my door. Hey, Josh.
You didn't change your name to Ted, did you?
No, right. Did he have income? I don't know.
I don't know if he did, but
So as long as something's coming in the door, it's going to be taxed, and we just want to make sure that it's taxed fairly and at the lowest rate legally possible.
Yes.
And that's what Jeff can help you out with. 636-394-5524. That's Capital Advisory Group. You can find them on the web at CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. Jeff Zufall is the man. And we'll talk to him some more when we come back. Property taxes frozen.
It's awesome.
For people 62 and over in St. Charles County, is it going to move to the city and St. Louis County? And what does it even mean? We'll get into it in the next segment. It is Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. We'll be right back.
Keep What's Yours continues with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back on the show, back to Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. Really quickly, before we start talking about property taxes, because this might just, explode and take up the whole time. Teachers get educator deductions of $300.
$300. So
right off the top.
So if you're a teacher, basically what they're saying is you get a $300 educator credit. Basically if husband and wife are both teachers, you get $600, $300 apiece. And what it's saying is it's to help offset the expenses as an educator, professional development course fees. So if you got to go someplace, and you got to put money out of pocket, books and supplies. So probably every teacher has minimum of $300 in their classroom. If you still got to buy COVID-19, stuff, I say items, hand wipes, whatever you want to call it, sprays, that's all part of it. If you're buying computer equipment, software, any services that come along with it. So you go, ooh, $300 didn't scratch the surface of that. If you spend more than $300, go to your administrator, get a letter. The letter would validate saying, hey, you have more than, $300, you have $700, but you need a letter from your administrator and you can take the deduction.
And if your kids go into their classroom and it's the most boring classroom in the building and there's never any Kleenex there, that teacher just pocketed $300.
$300. But believe me, $300 doesn't go far.
Doesn't go far, and we know from years and years past, both my parents are teachers, that they take money out of their own pockets.
Sure they do.
To make that experience.
To decorate it, to buy whatever they need to buy.
So much
that
better
the schools
for the kids
don't
that go
add.
in there.
Yes.
Schools never reimburse them.
Nah.
I sure hope the teachers have a great pension plan because
they do. Well, depends. If you're public school, yes. If you're private school, not so much.
Right. Because, they deserve to have the greatest life after they're done working.
Yes.
So, love the teachers here. Okay. Property taxes. I'm not sure how they work. I asked you last week, realized versus unrealized gains.
Yes.
Property tax. It goes up when my house increases in value, but I didn't sell my house.
No.
I haven't earned anything off of this, but my taxes went up, and now I'm paying more money for a house that I've been living in for 3 years.
Yes.
That That I haven't earned anything off this. There was no income that came
You
in.
technically haven't, but they're going off the value of the houses. So there's a lot behind the scenes on that. And the good news is, let's say in your neighborhood, right down the street, they start building, mega mansions. It's going to drive the value of your property up, whether you want it to or not, by
Right.
default. But also, if they find dioxin on your street, your property values are going to drop like a rock, and the value goes down, and the taxes go with it.
If I was planning on dying in this house 40 years from now,
Uh-huh.
I hope they find all the dioxin.
No.
But we all plan to sell the house at some point.
Exactly. So it's an unrealized gain to you personally until you sell it. But
Right.
again, on your primary residence, you've got a $250,000 or $500,000 exclusion on the gain. So if you bought it for $100 and sold it for $200, you don't pay tax on it. You just have to record it on your tax return. So that at closing they give you a 1099-S. But the issue with the real estate tax on it is every year you have to pay real estate tax. And if you look at, especially St. Louis County, you flip over your projected bill and look at the back of it, I think the biggest one in there is special school district. They get a chunk of it. Then it's Parkway or Rockwood, whatever your local school district is, that goes into the fire districts, and then all these other things that are part of the county. So the problem is every year they base it on the value. They reassess. They're supposed to reassess every 3 years, but it seems like they reassess every year going forward.
With the price of houses these days just skyrocketing.
There
over
was
the
something.
Past couple of years?
What was it? There was I saw something, and it said that the average value of a house in like the 80s was $60,000 or something like that, and a nurse made $65,000 or something like that. And then they fast forward to today. That same house is now worth $450,000, but that nurse only makes $71,000 and an increase in wages. So that's our issue: is inflation is out there, but wages are not following suit.
No,
So,
they're not.
But again, going back to this, St. Charles County is voted. So if you live in St. Charles County or own property in St. Charles County, they're going to freeze your real estate tax where it is this year. You got to be over 62. Originally, there was an income threshold, but I think that was tossed out. So literally, just everybody over 62 that freezes going forward.
And originally, the income threshold, you had said something in the tune of $47,000.
Yeah, it was like 47 originally.
If you earn less than that,
then you would qualify for the freeze.
so
but
that
that's
would
not,
be for the idea is, well, older people, they don't have income coming in; they're on fixed incomes.
Exactly.
And then their house doubled in value last year because the housing market is insane.
Well, it's insane. So it gets reappraised in a sense, or I call it reappraised by the county. The county says, "Oh, hey, I mean, even us, you're talking double-digit increases in, like a 20% increase in your tax. So if you're on fixed income, that's taking a bite out of it." So again, here's another thing that's out there, we reference it as the circuit breaker. So this is St. Louis County, St. Charles County, St. Louis City, anywhere. The real estate tax that you pay on your state tax return, as long as you don't make more than $30,000 total income, you'll get up to an $1,100. It's called the circuit breaker, or a credit on your real estate tax. So you'll get some money back from the state for your real estate taxes that you pay.
And these things are actually out there.
Yes.
In this entire conversation, you listen to McGraw in the morning, you read the Post-Dispatch, and this entire conversation, no one's brought that up because you need a tax guy like Jeff Zufall to catch these things for you, And it's not like Steve Ellman out in St. Charles County is going to go door to door
and go, hey, if your income's this, and again, if you rent, so let's say you're in assisted living, and you pay or you have income less than $27,000, you get and your facility participates in this rental program. You get to take part of the rents that you pay, and you get that deduction up to $1,100 also. So there's a perk out there for basically seniors to get a rebate, or what's referenced as a circuit breaker, on what they are paying for their real estate tax. But typically we see it helps the people on fixed income, but Somebody that's making 50, 60, 70 grand a year, you're locked out of that.
Yeah.
You can't get it.
Because, theoretically, maybe you don't need it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but no.
Right. Well, everybody wants to take
Yeah.
advantage, but sometimes people just don't need it.
Exactly.
And as we get into the discussion, if everybody got a tax break, then the losers would be the schools.
Schools, that's the only place they get their money from, is literally taxing. That's how it's designed. So you go, hey, is your neighborhood going to deteriorate over time because they don't have the taxes, and then the schools start to deteriorate and the younger families start to move someplace else? That's a whole nother game that way out of my pay grade.
And that you might want, if you're concerned about your schools,
Yeah.
because I moved into this school district for a
Exactly.
specific reason.
To send the kids there. But then,
if you're worried about your schools, then you got to call your councilman and get into all that. But
Yeah.
let's boots on the ground, pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
What is the increases in my property tax year over year? What is that number even anyway? Like if they froze me, you told me in the commercial break, $250,000 house, let's just say $5,000 in property tax.
As you sit today, you pay $5,000 a year in property tax. So if they take that house and let's just say it gets a 10% increase in real estate tax, it's adding $500 to the
And the next year, I'm paying $5,500. So that's $500 a year.
Yeah. And then let's say that it goes up another 10, which we've seen this trend
The next year.
Yeah. So then it's $550 on top of that. So now you're at 6,000 and some change.
So I went from 5,000 to 6,000 in the course of 2 years.
Yes.
So that is a pretty
It's huge.
big deal.
Huge. If you're on fixed income, it is huge.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that. So you say not only the pressures of just your real
But this
estate
isn't
tax,
a month. This is per year.
Well, it's billed. It's billed. St. Louis County's billed. It's due by December 31st. Have a nice day.
Right.
They don't care. Oh, you can pay it early if you'd like, but you go a day late, they're going to ding you for whatever your outstanding balance is, and you got penalties and interest going forward.
When I still have a mortgage, which I do, and I probably will for the rest of my life, that's taken out in
About
escrow.
95% is escrowed, so they're collecting it monthly as you make the payment, and they pay it at the end of the year.
If I
for you.
pay off my house,
You still got to pay your real estate tax and insurance.
but when is that assessed to me? Because
Well,
I'm
that-
paying it monthly
So say
in my
that
mortgage.
you're paying. Let's say you paid your house off this month.
I'm paying the estimate.
You pay it off. Literally, what would take place is you would hopefully have a little bit of money that would be in escrow that they'd give back to you, but then your tax bill would be due December 31st.
And that's how they do it.
And that's how they do
One lump sum.
Yep.
Boom.
Yeah.
So if I pay off my house, somebody needs to pull me aside and say, Josh,
set aside X per month, and it's a scary number.
we were doing it
Yeah.
monthly for you.
Yeah. Now you got
you're
to come
on
up with.
Yeah. You don't have a mortgage anymore, but now you got to
Still
figure
got that.
out.
So we have a lot of people. Here's how we tied it in. Required minimum distributions. So what we do is we take them out in the first part of December when they're used to pay real estate tax. That's what they're designed for.
Oh,
So-
if you're over 72, and that number I think is probably going to go up.
It's actually it's right now. There's 3 sets to it, which gets really confusing, but it is what it is. It originally was 70 and a half, then it's 72, now it's 73, and then in 2024, part of the Inflation Reduction Act, it pushes to 75. But if you're already taking your RMD, you're stuck. There's nothing you can do about it. You know what I mean? You have to continue it on. But typically, you could use that RMD that you're forced to take out, use that to pay your real estate tax.
So you're forced to take out money in an RMD. We talk about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people out there that say, hey, I still have plenty of money in other places.
Yeah.
I don't want to take this money out. I can survive without it. The government says, no. We
Gotta
need
take it.
to tax you on it, so you have to take it. What a great idea. Take it out and pay off your property tax.
Yeah, pay your property tax, insurance. Do it on an annual basis. That's kind of and then it's kind of a forced. I'll call it forced savings because you're forced to take the RMD, and then you have those bills and just make them kind of collide together at the
That's
end
a
of the year.
great idea.
Yeah.
I haven't even thought about that because I'm not there. Like I said,
Exactly.
I'm gonna have a mortgage for the rest
Got a
of my
mortgage,
life.
so it's every month you're paying money in. So
So back to pen and paper. If I'm at $5,000 a year in property taxes and I'm over 72, I still owe $5,000
Yeah,
a
you
year.
still owe $5,000.
But
Yeah.
they come to reassess my house. It goes up. That isn't passed on to me.
Exactly. For St. Charles County right now.
Yes.
Only St. Charles County approved it. St. Louis County.
And everyone over 62, no matter how
Yeah.
much income they have,
No
no
income.
matter how expensive their house is.
Yeah. It doesn't. I haven't read anything yet that says there's caveats. Over $1 million, or you
Right.
make more than $200,000 in income. But St. Louis County, it's gone before the council. It wasn't voted down, but I don't think they really kind of followed it through. And then I don't think city followed it through either. It's come up in all three. They haven't really pushed the issue in county or city, though.
And people are going to, people are probably cheering on one side of the radio. We're in stereo, and on the other side, out of the right channel, people are booing and say, "Oh, what about the schools?"
School districts were having an issue with that, huge issue, because their funding will be reduced. I won't say cut. It'll be reduced because they're going to expect to get a higher piece of the pie next year for increases, and they won't, at least for that element. So if you have a high elderly population in your community, then the taxes are going to freeze. And I'm sure they've done the math upside down and backwards. They know exactly who's in their taxing district and so on.
As everything, running schools gets more expensive
Sure.
year over year.
Each year it does. Run the facilities, keep maintenance on the facilities. They don't pay property tax like we do, but salaries, teachers' salaries, everything that takes place gets more expensive. So you can see both sides of the equation, but I think it's good. At least that's the first step in helping anybody over 62. Because if you are on a fixed income, everybody that's been to a grocery store in the last 30 days is when wow,
Yeah.
the numbers are insane.
I'm not on a fixed income,
And you still, same here.
We've dipped into our savings
Just to
get through this.
Yeah, and it's just like, wow. And the question is, how long is it going to last? And nobody's really given us a straight answer on that.
Yeah.
And you say, all right, is it like we talk about greedflation, where they just keep raising prices?
Which I think it is.
I think
Procter & Gamble have admitted
that's
that people didn't mind paying more. So
we raised the price.
So we raised them even more.
Exactly. So you go, part of it is getting stuff to market. I get that. You got the fuel charges. You have, you pay the truckers to get it, the train service, all that fun stuff. So that's all part of. But it just seems like the inflation in the last couple of years, ever since I'll say the mid-COVID, has gone through the roof. Where it's and that's the problem the Federal Reserve's having, is trying to increase interest rates and play games with the economy to slow it down, just so they can get a good handle on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I'll say it's sort of working, but it's not completely working. So there's more rate hikes probably in the horizon.
Well, let's talk about that in the next segment. But
Okay.
just to put a bow on this, as of right now, St. Charles County, if you own property and it's your primary residence.
Yes, primary. I don't think it's commercial real estate. You can't go.
Do you see people changing their primary residences?
No, because it's the IRS rules are 2 out of 3 years, or 2 out of 5 years living in that address. So there's very few scenarios where they could flip flop back and forth.
And make it work in their favor.
And make it work in their favor. Usually it's detrimental to you, just by flip-flopping back and forth where you have multiple properties. And again, it depends upon what the basis is in those properties. So it's a mathematical equation that you put to pen to paper and say, hey, it will work, or no, you cannot do that.
So I'm one of these guys that I'm saying, well, you know what? If I put my mom on my house and this and that, and then, Jeff's the kind of guy that says, well, Josh, you didn't think about X, Y,
Exactly.
or W, R, Q,
There's a whole
F,
slew
T.
of them out there that will get you.
My scheme to save money actually was going to cost me about, $3,000.
I've seen where people are attempting to do that, or they're like, hey, my mom moved in with me. I need it as a dependent. And they're thinking they get all this money. Over 17 dependent, you get $500. So, and again, then you have to prove, to get that $500, did you pay more than 50% of their well-being, in a sense? So if they get Social Security and a pension, you can't. It's impossible to prove that.
Yeah.
So it's a joke, and IRS can see that. They know. So,
So Josh's quick get-rich-quick schemes
yeah.
fall under scrutiny pretty quickly.
Quickly.
Most of the time. But that's what Jeff is here for. Hey, Josh, there's a better way
Here's the way to do it.
to
Exactly.
make some money or to save some money, and that is by adjusting your withholdings. Putting a little bit more money in your
Yes.
401k, saving money into a 529
Exactly.
for your kids' education. You know, we did that with a flex spending account
Yeah.
for my
Works
son's
perfect.
daycare, and we're getting money back, or technically speaking, we're keeping
Money. Yes.
the money before it even goes to the government.
Yes.
We get to keep more of it, and they don't ask for it back. So if you want to get rich quick, I don't know.
Vegas. It's
Go
the
to
only place.
Vegas.
Good luck.
If you want to get richer steadily and
Slowly over time.
over time, give Jeff a call. If you don't want to do anything, then just keep paying more than your fair
Exactly.
share in taxes and call it a day. But give Jeff a call, 636-394-5524, senior tax strategist and wealth advisor with Capital Advisory Group. It's Keep What's Yours on the radio, in the book form that you can order from Jeff's website, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. And in our lives, as I walk down the street, I say, how can I keep more of my money? How can I keep more of my money? Jeff can help you do that.
Yes,
So you can
that we
stop
can.
being fixated on it.
Yes.
Just get a plan in place.
Yes.
And every time you get paid, you can realize, boy, I just kept some more of my
That's
money.
right. That's right.
We'll be back right after this on the Big 550 KTRS.
Keep What's Yours continues with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back on the show, back to Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. I'm Josh Gilbert. And Jeff, just really briefly, we're going to talk inflation, see where we're at there before we close out the show. But the IRS is a-coming, right?
Yes, they are. So, long story short, with the money that the IRS got from the Inflation Reduction Act, and they reference it as the IRA, which is not an IRA as we think, it's just the Inflation Reduction Act. Originally, there was a tune of $80 billion that was given to the IRS over the next 10 years. When they did the debt ceiling debate back 3 months ago, the IRS ended up losing $20 billion of that. So
the Republicans said,
yes,
we want to make a deal. One of our concessions
is we want. Well, I think they wanted $30 billion off the table, and they settled for $20. So the IRS is now sitting with $60 billion over the next 10 years as its funding. They've hired their customer service reps, so they have people answering the phone. We see that on a daily basis. It's awesome. Now what they're saying is they're going to go after these large partnerships and hedge funds and real estate partnerships, and they're going to use AI to their advantage to go do this. So apparently what they're saying, and this was the first week of September, they are going after 75 of the largest partnerships out there. Hedge funds, real estate firms, and tax agencies are going to try to build the case for saying, hey, look what we can do. So who knows what the numbers looks like here shortly, but you'll probably see some press where they're like, hey, we found, $100 million from these guys, that they weren't paying their fair share. More than likely, that's what it sounds like. But IRS is saying that anybody that makes less than $400,000 a year, your audit chances stay the same. So, well, that's to be determined.
Right.
But literally,
if you make less than $400,000 a year, we aren't going to
go
focus
after
more
you.
attention on you than we normally would.
Yeah, but I think that's a smokescreen in a sense, because again, low-lying fruit. They go after the little guy. They're going to show up.
They're saying we're going after the big tax cheats.
Yeah.
But what they're not saying is we're going to look at everybody.
Exactly. At the end of the day, that's what it is. Anybody in the small business arena, and I say small business, partnerships, S Corps, C Corps, all that fun stuff, they're going to go after you. Because they keep saying, oh, all the small businesses are tax cheats, we're going to go get some money. So if they show up to somebody that has a small business that makes $50,000 or $75,000 a year in revenue, they say you owe us $500, you're going to write them a check for $500.
Yeah.
They show up to the biggest hedge fund in the country that does, billions of dollars in revenue. There is a floor of attorneys and accountants that will go hack their way through it to say, no, we don't know it, and here's why.
Yeah.
And they will gladly pay that money to do that. So
we found $100 million But it took us 6 years
to get it, yeah.
and countless lawsuits to get it.
Exactly. So that's why I say I buy it to a degree, but I don't. But it's coming. So, and they're using AI to their advantage. So what they're saying is their systems now, they've upgraded some of their systems. They have the ability to run artificial intelligence to say, hey, do something on your return stand out more or less than somebody else's? And
Yeah.
that's
Hey,
what they're.
hey, tax bot.
Yeah, exactly. And
Who's
it-
cheating on their
yeah,
taxes
and
today?
It gives you a list, and they just call them, hey, you're cheating. Send us a check.
Tax bot caught you. All right, and then inflation ticking up the last 2 months.
Yes.
This
we're
isn't good.
we're up 3.7. That's year over year from August. So we won't have September's numbers yet.
What are we looking for?
We're looking for it to go down, but it's actually ticking up.
To what?
So,
what's the
well,
target?
The target for the Fed is 2 to 2.5%,
Okay.
but we don't live in that realm. But the Fed does. So they're looking for 2 to 2.5 is what they would consider normal inflation on a regular day. But we're sitting at 3.7. That's year over year, August from this year to August of last year. So we were at one point in time almost 9%, 9.6, I think.
Okay.
But still, the numbers
So
out
3.5 sounds great. compared
sounds
to
great
that.
compared to it, but it's still heavy duty.
And,
so
it was down, but then it's
it
gone back
popped
up.
back up. So back in the 80s, they said, hey, inflation's taken care of. And then 3 months later, it reared its head again, and they had to continue on with their rate hikes. And that's how we got double-digit interest rates in the late 70s, early 80s.
When my parents bought their first home.
Exactly. And again, that house back then might have been 60 grand. Today it's 400. You
Yeah.
can't pay the interest.
No.
So that's where we're sitting today. So the Fed has to get inflation under control, and they do that. They do that by raising rates, and it's going to happen. I think the next week. Next week, Fed meets again. They're saying another quarter point minimum.
But you said that during an election year, which 2024 is,
Yes,
so
hypothetically.
just in 3 months from now or whatever, they don't raise or lower interest rates.
Unwritten rule that they don't, because it will either push the current administration deeper into the hole, or they'll make them look great because it refines the economy and makes everything great. So hypothetically, they can't. But if the Fed's hand is played, they have to. They got to do what they got to do to keep the economy rolling. So.
And you said one of the reasons why inflation might be ticking up the past couple of months, OPEC announced that they were going to tighten oil production.
Our buddies
shut the wells off.
Yeah,
and
they pretty much capped a bunch of wells or turned them off temporarily.
what did that do to our gas prices?
Jacks them sky high.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, years ago, we had that under control where we were a major exporter. It wasn't an issue because we were exporting. We were using it and exporting at the same time. Today, our wells have been shut down. Now we're at their mercy. So if they decide, hey, we're going to slow production means prices skyrocket
On everything.
for everything because everything has something to do with oil. I mean, whether it's plastics, shipping, trucking, I don't care. It's got oil involved in it. So
That's wild. To think that oil is, we've got the sun
Exactly.
up ahead, and then there's oil.
Yeah, and that's
So
it.
Take your pick. All right. Well, Jeff, thank you so much.
You
and
betcha.
We'll break it down even more. We'll see what the Fed decides to do, and we'll see if there's any fallout over the property taxes, or if St. Louis County and St. Louis City say,
gets on board. Be
hey,
nice.
yeah, we'll take the screaming school boards.
That's right.
But we want to give this to our 62-year-olds as well. So just keep it tuned here to Keep What's Yours every single week, because you get paid all the time.
Exactly.
And every time you get paid, a taxable event happens.
Yes.
Is it in your favor, or is it in the government's favor?
Exactly.
Hopefully, with the help of Jeff Zufall, it's always in your favor. Keep What's Yours. 636-394-5524. That's the number you can call Jeff's office, get an appointment on the schedule, and you can visit them online, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Keep What's Yours with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Manager at Capital Advisory Group. To learn more, call 636-394-5524 or visit CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com.